So I've got two very different guitars here. This one is more of a beginner level guitar. It's £150. It's made by Yamaha, so the price range would suggest that it's basically sort of completely factory made. There are lots of different people making this guitar, lots of different sort of components within the factory that make the different bits, and then it all comes together to make one instrument. Whereas here, I have my guitar. Something more like this level would probably be completely, it would be completely handmade, which means that it's basically just made by one luthier, one guitar maker in his workshop probably, and you can kind of customize things like that to a much sort of more detailed level. So this guitar, for instance, this is actually quite a new addition, to be honest, so I only got this guitar maybe 6 months ago. It's actually a lattice braced guitar, which means that it's really heavy. The bracing inside, so basically what sort of helps all of this stay not collapsed, is like a lattice pattern. And what that does, I don't really know the technical details of it, so I'm not going to pretend like I do, but it makes it a lot louder, basically. So I also have a very traditional built guitar, which is just sort of a standard build. It's not lattice braced, and this is much punchier. It's got a much fuller sound. So as you can probably hear, the melody strings are a lot fuller. It's got a slightly more tinny quality to it as well. So if you're looking at buying a entry-level, beginner sort of level guitar, something like a Yamaha would be quite a good choice. There are other makes like Cordoba, Altamira, but all these brands kind of have a sort of standard to it for, basically. In terms of what you might be looking for when you're buying a guitar, not necessarily your first guitar, just any guitar, I think it's important to consider how easy you find it to play. So obviously if you're not a beginner and you've been playing for a little while, you might have tried different guitars that sort of might feel a bit more difficult to play than others, and that could be due to the action on the guitar, like how far the strings are from the fretboard, because obviously the further up they are, higher the action, the more difficult it is to play. But also the higher the action, the louder a guitar tends to be. So this guitar, for instance, has quite a high action because it's a very loud guitar. You're also looking for like the quality of sound. Obviously the quality of sound, there are a lot of different factors that go into that, like fingernails and things like this, but ultimately the guitar is obviously a big factor of that. So the guitar, the strings. To be honest, it's important to try as many different guitars as humanly possible because it's a big decision, and I mean anything as little as obviously the scale length of the guitar, so sort of technically how big it is, the string spacing. There are so many different components that go into it. So ultimately it's basically what you find easiest to play.